I come from the kind of whiteness that doesn't know itself as a color, just as the norm, clean as the hospital sheets where I was born, surrounded by pictures of blonde babies in a majority black and brown society, and soft as unused money stored for rainy days. My father's political career built us a house of selected symphonies, where maids spoke Portuguese with northern accents and disappeared after dessert was served. My mother arranged flowers on the dinner table, imported from Holland, while outside the cacophony of Rio de Janeiro grew like a fever dream around our gated home. Fat and spoiled, I moved through private schools wearing a smile like a badge of privilege, learning to transit spaces I hadn't earned but couldn't help occupying. However, after university, a public one of course, the ironic entitlement of the upper class in Brazil, I lost some of the weight. Gym memberships, personal trainers, whatever was necessary, and I became presentable. But not tough. I remained what I had always been, a man who had never been tested by the world's teeth. That all changed when I met Rosita. She was working at a stall in the market, skin like roasted coffee, voice that warmed my heart, and a gaze that seemed to weigh the soul. I brushed her hand while passing change, and a current ran through me. Not lust, not mere chemistry. A pull. Gravity turned sideways. Her fingers moved like water over coins when our skin met. The current that passed between us wasn't attraction, it was recognition. As if some part of me I'd never met was calling to some part of her she'd kept hidden. Her eyes, dark as the bottom of a well, searched my face with the kind of attention reserved for reading weather or weighing danger. "You're not from here," she said. Not a question. "No," I admitted. "But you've been around before." I had. Every campaign season with my father, shaking hands in favelas for photographs, dispensing promises like communion wafers to the gullible poor. I had learned the choreography of crossing worlds, how to soften my vowels, when to touch shoulders, which saints to invoke. Performance as politics, power as theatrics. But Rosita, 10 years younger, sharp as broken glass, she had learned the opposite dance. How to move through the world without triggering its traps, how to navigate the treacherous currents of her world from birth. I had only learned the etiquette of mine. When I brought her home for dinner, she wore her intelligence like jewelry, just bright enough to catch light, never bright enough to blind. Both our families surprised us by blessing what we couldn't yet name. Our worlds did not collide, they merged. My family saw in her a sharp, captivating force. Hers saw in me a steady, if naive, kindness. She was the one who pushed me to abandon my aimless drift, to return to university, to find work that had meaning. In return, I offered her a mirror, one that reflected the brilliance she possessed but had been taught to deny and ignore. We saw in each other not a project, but a partner in the alchemy of becoming. Perhaps our parents sensed what we were beginning to understand, that we were not crossing class lines so much as weaving them into something new. We married in the next winter, when the rains made the city weep with temporary beauty. Our apartment in the periphery was a conscious geography, far enough from the favela where her parents lived, farther still from the high rises where mine remained suspended above the world's complications. It was a space between spaces, either here nor there, which made it ours. Rosita taught me to see furniture in refuse, possibility in abandonment. We'd walk through Cidade Tiradentes on trash days, salvaging chairs with broken legs, tables scarred by cigarettes and time. In our hands they became something else, sanded smooth, painted bright, reborn into beauty. "Everything can be saved," she told me once, running her palm along what we'd rescued from a dumpster. "Everything just needs someone to see what it could become." At the time I thought she was only talking about furniture. Later, I realized she was also speaking to some part of herself, the part that still doubted whether even the most forgotten life could be pulled back from the dark. Our life grew rhythms. Sunday barbecues at her father's house, where I learned to tend fire and listen to stories that began before I was born. Evenings in our apartment, transforming trash into treasure while samba played from someone's radio 3 floors below. I showed her a world she could already conceive but had never been permitted to visit. She taught me silence that said more than my education ever had. The chair was going to be our masterpiece. We'd found it in a pile of debris, modernist style, with carved legs and a dignity that spoke of better days. For weeks, we left it in her parents' house, where we sanded and stained, painted it sunset orange, bold as a shout. When we finished, it sat on their tiny balcony like a throne waiting for its kingdom. We hung it there to dry while Rosita went to gossip with the neighbors, a ritual I'd learned to love, the way information moved through the building like blood through veins, how survival depended on knowing who needed what, who could be trusted, who couldn't. She came back running. "Where's the chair?" "Gone. Vanished." As if the afternoon had swallowed it whole. A child playing in the courtyard pointed toward the maze of alleys that folded into the favela's heart. "Tom took it," he said, matter-of-fact as weather. Tom. I knew him the way you know rumors, a figure glimpsed at the edges of gatherings, always moving, always searching. At Rosita's father's last barbecue, he'd appeared like smoke, asking for food with eyes that couldn't focus. Her father had chased him away with words sharp as knives, but I'd seen something else in the old man's face. Not fear. Anger. "I'll get it back," I said, already moving toward the door. "You don't understand," Rosita began, but I was already gone, following the child's pointing finger into streets that had no names. All my life I'd been shielded from danger, padded by wealth and soft expectations. But Rosita had burned the padding away. We had faced worse than scorn and derision for marrying across the line society drew. In that moment, I couldn't stay soft. I wasn't brave, not yet, but I was hers, and that was enough to make me step forward.